Well, as Jim was mentioning, Iran is now weighing in on the debate over military action against Syria. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid al-Khamenei is warning the United States against the use of force in Syria, saying it will definitely pay the price for it. His comments were broadcast on Iranian state-run broadcaster Press TV. U.S. President Barack Obama, as we now know, has just touched down in St. Petersburg in Russia ahead of a G20 summit set to be dominated by the conflict in Syria. President Obama will meet his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, on the sidelines of the summit, we think, as the leaders disagree on possible military action in Syria. Meanwhile, a small victory for President Obama on Wednesday as he won approval from a key Senate committee on authorizing an attack on Syria. The proposed resolution would authorize a limited military response. That measure goes to the full Senate for debate next week. But the bigger test is whether Mr. Obama will win approval from the Republican-led House. House committee is still debating possible military action. Well, let's check in with Chris Lawrence, who's at the Pentagon, with more on that. Chris.
Hey, Monita. Yeah, just a few hours from now, top administration officials will go back to trying to make that case.
Chris, thank you. Chris Lawrence there at the Pentagon. Well, amid the diplomacy and the debates, the reality on the ground in Syria is sobering. The flood of refugees out of the country continues. The United Nations says 2 million people have fled the civil war, more than 500,000 to neighboring Jordan. Ben Wiedemann describes the misery of their isolation.
The bus back to Syria is full.
Leaders of the G20 are arriving in St. Petersburg, Russia this hour. In fact, we've just received word that the President of the United States has arrived in St. Petersburg at this hour. The summit officially begins today. This is not live pictures that you're seeing right now. This happened just moments ago. That's Air Force One landing in St. Petersburg, Russia for the G20 summit, as we've been saying. Of course, he is set to be meeting with the president of the country of Russia, Vladimir Putin, in what could very well be a very difficult conversation that they will be having about what to do about Syria. Now, as we've been talking about the group of nations, the group of 20 nations, they first met to deal with the 2008 financial crisis, and leaders still have a lot to discuss about the global economic recovery. We want to bring in our emerging markets editor, John Defterius, for more on this. He joins us now from CNN Abu Dhabi. John?
Yeah, thanks very much, Monita. In fact, we know that Syria is going to dominate the conversations at the G20 as the leaders start to arrive.
Thank you. John Defterius there, live for us from Abu Dhabi. We want, of course, to stay with us here on CNN as we continue our coverage of the G20 summit there in St. Petersburg. And, of course, we'll bring you more on the meetings that will take place between the leaders and, of course, the discussions between President Barack Obama of the United States and his counterpart in Russia, Vladimir Putin. We will switch gears right now and take you to the United States. And authorities in the state of Ohio will conduct 2 separate investigations into the suicide of Ariel Castro. He is the man who held 3 women captive in his home in Cleveland for a decade. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You are watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. More than 100 cars have collided in a massive pileup on a bridge in southeastern England. It happened early Thursday morning during rush hour traffic. Authorities say at least 200 people have been injured, 6 seriously. Emergency crews are still at the scene. The accident happened in thick fog on the new Sheppey Crossing Bridge, which is in Kent. Let's bring in our meteorologist, Maya Ramos, at the World Weather Center to give us an idea of just how bad these misty conditions are in Kent. Mara, I mean, the weather was supposed to be, or supposedly, pretty nice right now, but I guess the fog was just a little too thick.
Yeah, what happens in these areas is happen in the early morning hours, and this is an area.
Good advice there, Mari, as always. Thank you very much. Researchers who discovered the remains of King Richard III, the last English king to die in battle, have unearthed more about the monarch. He was fighting another battle at the time of his death, an infection of parasitic worms. Today, a battle rages over his bones. Aaron McLaughlin reports. one royal to another, her life had everything a Hollywood scriptwriter could want. Glamour, beauty, romance, and ultimately tragedy. When she was alive, Princess Diana's story gripped the world as it played out on the nightly news and the pages of newspapers and magazines. And now, 16 years after her death, it's about to play out on the big screen. You are watching CNN News Center. I'm Monita Rajpal at CNN Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. I'll update you with the news headlines in just a few minutes.